What if your memory, focus, and emotional balance could be restored? Not by masking the symptoms, but by addressing the root cause. And this is what we've been working on for the last, I don't know, year maybe, that I've been talking to you about neurofeedback and how it has changed my life. And I am really thrilled because today in the classroom, we have our favorite brain whisperer, Dr. John Silva. He is going to be talking to us about how to overcome some of these invisible brain issues that with comprehensive cutting edge equipment tools that will empower you to start living the life of your dreams. And so today, get your pencil, your paper, and let's take lots of notes because we're going to learn and grow together. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you. Hi, my name is Lily McDermott, and I am a certified life coach, a certified holistic cancer coach, and the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show Classroom. If this is the first time you're in the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening and viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace inner truth and live the life of your dreams. Well, as I mentioned to you, I am really excited about the changes I've experienced with neurofeedback, and so much so that I've invited Dr. John Silva to be a regular in the classroom to share the good news that we don't have to suffer in silence or think that this is a shameful thing, maybe even a part of growing old. I want to grow bold, not old. And these are things that we can do to tweak it along the way so that we can, you've met those people at 99, they're so sharp, they're as sharp as a whip. How did they do it? What did they do? What are some of the things that they were able to change in their life that made them who they were 20, 30 years from where we're at today? And so I'm excited that Dr. John Silva is in the classroom and we've done webinars together and we are giving away, for those of you, text me at 407-373-5959 or you can email at lily@whenyounneedafriend.com. We're giving away the last webinar that we did on neurofeedback training 2.0, where we talked about it. It was a great, great webinar. And I am so incredibly grateful to Dr. John Silva. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. John Silva is here to do just that. Welcome back to the classroom. I'm so excited to see you.
Exciting to be back and great to see you again, Lily, and looking forward to this one. Some exciting stuff.
Absolutely. Well, this one is kind of dear to your heart because this is more than just talking about neurofeedback. There are other things. And by the way, for those of you who find this fascinating as I have, Dr. Silva has his own playlist on my YouTube channel, and also you can find him on BitChute and all my social media. You can even find the audio on all podcasts. So just go to whenyounneedafriend.com to learn. Just click and it will take you straight there. So Dr. Silva, let's talk about a multi-therapeutic approach and what are some of these tools and how do you find these tools? So let's get started.
Sure. Yeah, before we get underway, I just came to mind, kind of get a little basis for this. For anyone out there in the listening audience, if you have not heard of this concept called biohacking, it's not a new concept. I think the grandfather of this biohacking concept or that terminology happens to be Dave Asprey, great author. You should check out some of his books. Most popular book, I think his first book was The Bulletproof Diet. I remember reading that years ago when it first came out. It was mostly based on the ketogenic diet and how that can have an impact on our overall health and help with a lot of chronic conditions, including neurological conditions. But through his efforts, and he has a clinic, I think several clinics, that showcase and use some of the cutting edge therapies and technologies that are accessible to all of us, either through clinics like his. I've been doing this kind of stuff since 2001. And what's interesting is now there's a term for what I had been already been doing in my clinic for many years, this multi-therapeutic approach. But what's interesting is just 2 weekends ago, they had their annual biohacking conference, and I wanted to go. I've been wanting to go to this thing for years, but it seems like every weekend I have some other obligation. It was in Austin, Texas. I had a teaching obligation for the Avasia therapy actually that weekend, so I wasn't able to attend. But I've talked to a couple of people who were in attendance. They said it's just like every other year. It's wonderful. And what's really neat about when I was looking at the guest speakers, some of the technologies and therapies they were showcasing there, I'm going through the list of speakers, and a lot of these people I've either trained with or I've gone to their course, their postgraduate courses. A lot of the physicians, doctors out there in this cutting edge therapies and technologies, or I'm very familiar with them. I've read their books. But what's really, really fascinating is a lot of the therapies and techniques that are promoted at this conference and a lot of clinics like mine use have become much more streamlined, more effective, and more cost effective compared to even just 5, 6 years ago, to where a lot of these things people don't realize can be done and applied from the convenience of home. You don't necessarily have to go to a biohacking clinic like mine. And just to give you an example, and you may have one of these in your hometown, but here in St. Lucie West, my clinic is located in Port St. Lucie. We have a designation of a part of our community called St. Lucie West. There is not necessarily a clinic, it's more of like a spa setting, but they do things like pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, cold plunge therapy, hyperthermia therapy, all these wonderful biohacking therapies, technologies that have been around for decades, some of these things. And they're packaging and bundling them as a way for wellness, for people to slow that aging process, to recover from chronic conditions, to optimize their potential. And it's interesting, you had said something about aging into our 90s. I see this recurrent commercial when I watch my Rumble videos about what they call the bionic boomers. People well into their 90s who are still getting out there physically active. Their senses are sharp. They're able to maintain their memory, and they're doing what they were doing in their 40s and 50s with no side effects, no problems. So that's what I am trying to promote and have been doing for years. But again, the exciting thing about this is so many of these things that were only accessible through facilities, through clinics, these biohacking places, can now be brought home. And that's what I do with a lot of my clients. And that's what we're going to review today, is showcase and just talk about some of these different things that we all have access to.
And that's amazing. And I love the terminology, bionic boomer. Because I
Yeah,
would
isn't that great?
qualify. I'm like in the younger boomer. I'm one of the younger boomers, but that's what I want. And when I turned 50, I remember thinking I want my next 50 years to be better than the first, because the first 50 years, I think I worked towards honoring my belief system that was taught to me as a child. And as I got older, like in my mid to late 40s, that's when I started dipping the toe and being curious about other things. I would have dismissed all this information that you bring into the classroom. I would have dismissed that in my early 40s, in my 30s, because
Mhm.
I thought that if you think it, it's true. And it's amazing of how much you can go out there and research and actually try. I've tried all these things on myself to realize that, God created our body to heal. And we're getting closer and closer to this mitochondrial, that center of our cells that, to improve our mitochondrial health is to remove disease in our body. And perhaps maybe we can become baby boomers. I mean, you're much younger than I am, but for me to be a bionic boomer, I would love that. I love
Isn't
that
that a great
terminology.
terminology?
Great job on the marketing for the person who created that commercial. But so for now, what I've experienced is neurofeedback. So let's start with neurofeedback and what people
Yeah.
can expect with that. And I love the fact that I can do it in the privacy of my own home, not have to drive to a clinic, deal with traffic, have to dress up, So let's talk about neurofeedback and some of the benefits.
Yeah, and of course, neurofeedback has been the topic of many of our podcasts together over the last year. And as I talk about it with my clients and potential clients, it is the core of my practice and what I offer, and like I said, in a home setting now, because of its impact on our neurological system at large, but specifically our brain. And again, got to look at basic concepts here. What ultimately controls and regulates every thought that we have throughout our lifetime, every emotion, every cognitive function like memory, focus, attention, the ability to learn, read, write, all those things. What gives us the ability to walk from point A to point B, to drive our car and get to work. Everything is masterfully controlled by our brain, right down to the cellular level. So the cells of your heart ultimately controlled by your brain. Your latest meal digesting in your GI system is ultimately controlled by brain and neurological function. So I always like to start there. So neurofeedback is a way, non-invasively, to basically monitor brainwaves. The system that we use monitors these brainwaves, looks for any irregular patterns, and then gives your brain feedback, either through auditory feedback while you listen to music that fades up and down, or through visual feedback where you're watching a movie that fades in and out. And what that is doing is prompting your brain to correct these irregularities of its brainwave states. So for instance, we can do an analysis that shows maybe you have too much of delta brainwaves. Okay, all these brainwaves serve a purpose in overall brain health and life, but too much or too little of these brainwaves can then manifest in problems. So again, coming back to the example, perhaps we have too many delta brainwaves going on in our brain. What neurofeedback does is get your brain to recognize that irregular pattern and to start shifting its elevated delta brainwaves into a lower state, and gives it a reward. And this is the whole process of how this works through what's called operant conditioning. And this is, again, non-coercive. We're not changing the person's personality. This is not hypnosis. This is simply you sitting down, putting some EEG sensors on your scalp, watching a movie, watching a series for a half hour, and just lose yourself in the video. And your brain subconsciously will do the rest for you. And it is a training. That's why I like to sometimes refer to it rather than neurofeedback therapy, but neurofeedback training, because this takes some time. It's just like going to the gym and working out. If we want to be a bionic boomer into our 90s, we know we've got to start now. If we haven't already been exercising our whole life, we've got to start somewhere, and we've got to stay consistent. Yes, and it doesn't mean you have to go to the gym every single day and you've got to do intense workouts. We got to do something. And even if it's not the gym, I tell people who are sedentary and have been sedentary their whole life, perhaps, just get out and just go for a basic walk. If it's too hot, like it is down here in Florida this time of the year, get a treadmill, get a recumbent bike, whatever you can do to get yourself mobile. So neurofeedback is a way to train your brain and neurological system for better performance, for better health. And it's utilized to overcome challenges. So whether it be things like anxiety, depression, cognitive issues, PTSD, but this is the exciting thing in part of this biohacking concept, it can also be used to optimize our potential. So we have so much potential that resides between our two ears in our brain. And what neurofeedback can do is go well beyond correcting these irregular brain waves to help us overcome these challenges such as anxiety and depression. We can go well beyond that to now really get this thing in an optimized state. So now we're taking, say, our Toyota Celica. Well, it's not a good example. Let's take a Honda Civic, okay? And now
Boy, Celica, you really
dating
yourself
myself
there.
we're taking our basic car and we're fine-tuning it. We're doing performance upgrades, and now we're making our brain the equivalent of an F1 car. And if anyone's ever looked into F1 cars or followed the Netflix series, or you watch some of the races, I mean, these things are incredible at the speeds that they go, the technology, the research, the safety, and consider your brain in that fashion. It's an advanced computer. In fact, I just saw a latest study. I get studies sent to me every day through my email inbox. And it was a study done showing that our brains are on the level of quantum computing, which is a whole nother rabbit hole that's fascinating to go down. And a lot of us in neuroscience have known our capabilities and how our brains function and what our brain's capabilities are. But to recognize the brain at the level of quantum computing is just fascinating, because what that tells us is, again, unlimited potential in so much for our whole body, but again, all masterfully controlled through our brain. So
Yeah.
that's neurofeedback.
Well, I wanna say something extra about neurofeedback. A couple things. Well, first of all, um, when people think of this as a hypnotic or somebody hypnotizing you, I have never been able to be hypnotized. I've had people try to do it because they wanted to do a show, and I'm like, okay, let's see if you can help. And I'm not a good subject for that. Let's just put it that way. You have to be a certain personality to be. I'm not. But I have seen an incredible change in me. And I've shared this, and you can watch some of the other classes that we've done with Dr. John Silva. I would not bring him or invite Dr. Silva into the classroom if I didn't feel passionate about this. That's the first thing. The second thing, I have never, proof that I cannot be hypnotized or this is not hypnotic, um, cluck like a chicken. Isn't that what the hypnotherapists do? Okay, want to cluck like a chicken, and try to control the audience. No, that's never happened to me. So I just wanted to confirm that. And second, and for those of you, we just did an event with a webinar, an online webinar with Dr. John Silva, Rewiring the Brain with Neurofeedback Therapy 2.0. And that was just focusing on neurofeedback. As opposed to the first one that we did, it was what are the other ultimate causes of cognitive decline, causes of focus, or whatever that it is that you're dealing with, what could cause that. So that was very, very, very deep into other things other than neurofeedback and neurotherapies or anything to that effect. So if you text me at 407-373-5959 or email me at lily@whenyouneedafriend.com and request it, I can send you the webinar for free. We decided to do that because this is such an important part, and it's so affordable for people to not have to go anywhere and just do it in their own privacy of their own home. So I just wanted to add that before we move on. Anything you'd like to add that I said?
That just got me thinking. I mean, we're talking about this Dave Asprey's biohacking conference that you physically have to go to, although in the last couple of years,
Hmm.
and that's what I was looking to do, is attend it virtually. But again, I was teaching that weekend, so I'll have to wait till next year. But you got me thinking. I'm thinking we should put together kind of our own mini virtual biohacking webinar 3.0, if we want to call it that, and just
Okay.
showcase some of the stuff and how accessible this is to all of us. And again, for those of you listening, some of the stuff that we're going to talk about here over the next several minutes, stuff you probably never heard of, but yet these things have existed for decades. We're talking some of the stuff back to the 1930s. Of
Wow.
course, it's become much more advanced, much more cost effective. But the fact is, when you start layering these things, that's why this is called a multi-therapeutic or a synergistic approach. That's where we can really tap into our body's potential. And you brought something up when we started our conversation today about the mitochondria.
Hmm.
So much of this biohacking realm, all of these different therapies, these different home-based modalities are designed to influence us at the cellular level. So
Hmm.
just again, basic concepts about how we're built as human beings. You got to look at our health ultimately down to the cellular level, because
Yep.
our body is nothing but the conglomerate of trillions of cells. Yes, there's differentiated cells that make up our neurological systems, like our neurons in our brain, which are nerve cells. We have our heart cells, our cardiac cells, our gastrointestinal cells. But ultimately, they all have a basic function. So we have a membrane around that cell, and that's an important part of our health, because what that membrane does, it helps to allow nutrients and minerals into the cell so the cell can work and do its job, whether it's, again, a neuron in your brain or a cardiac cell in your heart. And then also that membrane also allows toxins that we bioaccumulate through our lifetime to be detoxed out of this cell membrane. So that membrane is like a barrier that has a lot of different jobs. It also controls the voltage across the cell membrane. And then we're getting into some deeper stuff there, but just consider, again, go back to maybe just pull up on Google these days, just look at the the anatomy of a cell, okay? And this is where your health resides. And this is where we've lost our way in traditional allopathic medicine. They're looking at the big organ systems, and then they differentiate everything, and they got to go to a specialist for this part of your body, for this symptom. It's become so fragmented. We got to step back and look. We live our life. We have our health through this health of our cells. So when you start to look at it from that concept, and that's where these biohacking technologies and therapies come in. So a part of our cell that is so vitally important is the mitochondria. So these are just little parts in your cell. They're called organelles. So think of them as individual organs within your cell. Okay, we're talking microscopic level. But these mitochondria, their primary focus or function is to produce energy. Energy is what drives our functions as a human being. And it's all based on electricity. It's based on biochemistry. But mitochondria, as we age, as we experience stressors, as we degrade, these mitochondria aren't putting out enough energy. And we start to lose our volume of these mitochondria. They don't function quite as well. So many of these therapies that we're going to discuss, one of their main aims is to increase mitochondrial function. And there are therapies that, again, have existed for years to do just that, non-invasively, without a medication. And you're getting to the most root cause that we can possibly help overcome our health challenges or optimize our potential. Who doesn't want more energy, right? You got to think in terms of the mitochondria.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that just I'm diving deeper into the mitochondria because it used to be metabolic illness, it used to be just disease, and then metabolic illnesses, and then now it's mitochondrial health. And it's led me, and this is my interpretation of what I'm learning, it's led me to believe that everything is mitochondrial damage. Anything that when your body is malfunctioning. And I dove deeper and I into the mitochondria, and I thought maybe there was one mitochondria per cell, but I discovered that there's, like, for the skin, there might be 100 mitochondria per cell, and there might be 1,000 to 2,000 mitochondria per cell. So they're really, really tiny, and we really need every single one of them if we want to function. So we start off our life with all these mitochondria, and then as we abuse our body, as we have trauma and all these things, that's when disease starts happening. And correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm thinking is just like Epstein-Barr is chickenpox or a cold sore, herpes, and all these things, depending where herpes is in the body, it's called something different. So if it's in the face, it's this. If it's in the genitals, it's this. If it's somewhere else, it's that. It has a different name, but it's the same virus. It's just in a different place. And I'm wondering if disease is the same mitochondrial damage, but manifesting on a different part of your body. And if we can fix that, if we can fix mitochondrial damage, I wonder if we could get rid of all diseases. So what would be the next thing that you would say could help with this biohacking
so
the
while on the
body?
topic of mitochondria, one of the best again, I'll use the term biohacking, home-based therapies, technology. We can call them several different things, but pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. It's a lot. Easy way to say it is we abbreviate it PEMF therapy. Some people refer to as PEMF. Okay. And
I sleep on mine
is
every night. Sleep on mine every night. Yeah.
Mine too. I do, when I was doing my teaching a couple of weeks ago, I was telling people, and everyone was looked at me in shock, like, you do how much PEMF therapy a day? So I have two systems. I'm blessed. I'm fortunate. I've acquired a lot of stuff in my clinical practice. I like to tinker with things, like to try things myself. And that's the wonderful thing. I would not recommend anything to anyone, whether it be my family, my friends, or my clients, unless I have personally tried it myself. And a lot of the stuff I use on a daily basis have been for years. Okay, again, a lot of this stuff is new to a lot of people. They're just starting to hear about maybe the concept of biohacking technologies and therapies and such, but realize this stuff has been around for a long time, and a lot of us in the biohacking realm have been privy to this, and we have access to this stuff. So I do low intensity PEMF. I do about an hour to 2 hours of that a day, and most of it's just programmed in a whole body unit, so I actually have it under the topper of my mattress. So it's a really simple therapy. When I go to bed, I turn it on and I use the calming sleep setting, and I just fall asleep to it. And I'm usually asleep within minutes. And part of it is because that is helping to encourage more delta brain waves in your brain, helping to calm your entire nervous system. And again, this is a whole body PEMF. And this is not shocking. It's not electrocuting in nature. In fact, this is such a low intensity, subtle PEMF, you don't even feel it. Now, some people are sensitive to it. If they do feel it, sometimes they'll feel a little tingling sensation in their extremities, but that's the extent of it. 99% of people do not even feel this, but yet the electromagnetic energy is pulsing right through your body. And then I have my unit programmed to kick on an hour before I intend to get up. So before I'm even up, I've already got an hour of PEMF therapy, recharging my cells, increasing circulation, reducing inflammation, and the key, increasing the mitochondrial output.
You're going to have to teach me how to do that.
Mitochondria to heal.
Yeah, you have the QRS like I do, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're going to have to teach me how to program that because that would be great.
Yeah, yes.
To fall, because I fall asleep with it every night. I use it every night, and mine is on my mattress, over my mattress, under my sheet,
Yeah.
and I use it. I don't share it with Robert, although he could go on my side and use it. But it's so easy to just leave it there as opposed to transferring it back and forth. But
Yeah.
But anyway, those frequencies are so healing, and
they are.
it does regenerate your cells. Cell regeneration is what it's all about.
Yep.
But you're going to have to
Yeah.
teach me how to do that. And by the way, for those of you who want to learn more about the PEMF, I go to my website. I can put the link below so that you can click on it. And for people that tell them about me, that you learned it on the show, you get free shipping. So this is, and if you've heard of another one that's out there is called the Beamer. That's like $6,500, I think, or $6,000 right now. Now you can get a QRS for I think $3,500, which is so much more affordable than a multi-level marketing Beamer. Nothing to say negative things about it, but I'm just saying, why not? If you're going to get a PEMF machine, get it from one that is patented to do what it does. So, but keep going because I love this. I love this.
And you bring up a good point. I mean, I do a lot of research, and the fact is, this is your QRS. It's a German-based technology. It's the same unit as it's existed. Yeah, they've upgraded some things to it, but it's the same technology, emitting the same type of pulse electromagnetic energy as it was patented many years ago. And I've done the research, and it's a valid science. Now, of course, a lot of other people have come along, competitors and such. And again, PEMF, it is amazing what's available. So just to give you another example of a low intensity PEMF, there's actually wearable headbands now to use PEMF directly for the brain.
No
and again,
way.
this may sound crazy to people, but again, you don't feel the energy. It's a low intensity energy. But what our intention is here is to target specific parts of our brain, particularly the frontal cortex, which is a lot of our cognitive functions, increase the mitochondrial output, address what's called systemic inflammation at the level of the neurons, the nerve cells in our brain. It's a wearable technology. You can use it while you're on your computer, while you're doing your work, while you're watching television. And again, it's very, very affordable. And that's just one example of the plethora of different devices, both wearable, whole body. And just to take a step further, again, I like to tinker with things, and I also do about 24 minutes every morning. It's part of my morning wellness routine of high intensity PEMF. Now, this is a bit more of an investment, but this is a whole body unit. You lay on a mat similar to the QRS, but this one, you turn up the dial and you can actually get so much energy into your cells, particularly your muscles, that you'll get your muscles pulsating, contracting. In fact, you can turn it up so high that it actually becomes very uncomfortable. That's not the intention, but this one is especially for more chronic conditions,
cancer,
or recovery from injury. This is our go-to to really drive some energy into those cells. Yeah. So it's just, again, this has been part of my daily wellness routine, and I've turned a lot of my clients onto these things, and they are so thankful of things that they didn't know exist, and they have access to use in their home, relatively low cost. And that's one of the things I try to help people with is, one, let's put things within your available resources. Let's layer these in a way that become time efficient and cost effective. Because what I've learned in my journey over the years, it's exciting stuff. And I've acquired a lot of different technologies, and I could spend a whole day just doing biohacking stuff, and I don't have time to do anything else. Yes, I want to be a bionic boomer, but I have to put things in perspective. And I've heard this from a lot of people. It's like by the time I do my neurofeedback and I do this and I do that, it's like 2 hours. Where do I have time to do anything else? So what I have done on my own personal journey and what I teach people is how do we layer these things, try to incorporate them at the same time to be time effective, but also even cost effective. And that's where this gets really exciting. So I've got my system, my daily routine down into really no more than what I was doing even years ago. And that's the cool thing about where these technologies are becoming more efficient from a time perspective and more cost effective and can be used from home. So part of what I do with my coaching is show you the best and try to lead people to what I feel to be the best of the best technology, because I personally have tried a lot of different versions of these things. I've invested in them, and I personally use a lot of this stuff. So I'm only going to endorse what I know will work.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And just to say you look really good for 150, right? So this stuff is really working.
So
Actually,
speaking of which, you said that you're not that much older than me, so I'll be 57 in 2 weeks. So I don't know if I told you this, Lily, outside of the podcast, but I'll share it with our listening audience. So back in April, late April, I was on my electric skateboard. Yes, I still skateboard. I'm still young at heart, and my body is still there. I mean, yeah, I have a little more aches and pains than I did in my teens or my 20s, but I am still there. I love to go out and do adventurous stuff. So make a long story short, my own downfall, I did not put my pads on that day. And I was out there cruising around on my skateboard for about an hour, just coming around, making a last turn to get to my driveway, my home. And I accidentally lifted my thumb off the throttle. And these things are very sensitive to the tiniest little movements on the throttle. And basically the board stopped almost abruptly and it threw me off the front. So
mhm.
point being is I had a lot of soft tissue injury on my whole left side. So my ankle, my knee, my hip, my elbow really took a brunt of it, and then my
And I
left
remember
hand and wrist.
you also had a bump in your head because that's how I found out that that happened. Didn't you have a bump in your head, or maybe that was
But
another
luckily, my
thing?
head didn't hit. That was the one part that was preserved. Thank
That was
goodness.
something else that
That
happened.
was a different injury.
I think you bumped something. Okay.
So I was quite bruised up, bloodied up. I mean, I had layers of skin off my left hand. My elbow was just, it looked awful. So, of course, the first thing you do, attend to the wounds, clean them up. So that first night was not comfortable. I had to
Yeah.
sleep upright in my recliner, just trying to keep things covered the best I could. But immediately that night, I mean, literally within an hour after taking a shower, cleaning up, started applying these therapies. So low-level laser therapy, PEMF therapy, vagal nerve stimulation, some topicals to help with any potential infection, and also to promote healing of your skin and soft tissues to
Yeah.
control bleeding. Avasia was a big part of this.
Yeah.
Point being is within 2 weeks, I mean, all the superficial part of it was healed up, and I'm left with virtually no scarring, just a little bit of redness, still residual. Here we are 5 weeks later, and my sprain strain part of my injury, luckily I didn't fracture anything. This is almost 100%. Now, for my age, and if this wasn't addressed the way it was, I would probably be dealing with this for some people. It could be months, even years of just chronic pain. I have almost full motion, and I can now grip the handlebar on my bike. For the first couple rides on my bike, I couldn't even grip the handlebars. How that was. So, point being is these things come and they serve us well, especially in times of God forbid injury like what I had. So, lesson learned. I'm definitely going to wear my full complement of pads when I go back out again.
Well, you know what? It was a tough
Um,
lesson to learn, but I totally understand, how important the frequencies have become for me as well. So I relate to your story. That's my go-to. That's what I call my tools in my medicine cabinet. It's not Tylenol, it's not topical creams, although those are important as well. The topical creams, not the Tylenol, but the because the pain management, you can do that with Avasia, with the PEMF machine, and it does help in a cellular level to to dial up to the brain and start the healing process. But let me tell you, when I had plantar fasciitis and on my right foot, and my daughter, who is a runner, she had that for over a year. And it's just she was in a boot. She was in, they wanted to do surgery. Ultimately, it ended up tearing, so they didn't have to do the surgery when she was in a run one time. And I followed the protocols for plantar fasciitis for the Avasia.
Mhm.
And within a short period of time, I was able to I never wore a boot. I never, it was a very short period of time. My body started healing. What we don't understand is that how do these cells communicate with one another? They vibrate, right? They vibrate, they spin, whatever it is. But this causes that, the frequency that it causes that alertness of the body, of waking up the body. So it's amazing. I'm so grateful that I found that healing frequencies
Yeah.
truly work.
Yeah. And again, big concept, big picture. In fact, this is how I usually open up my Avazier trainings because that's a bioenergy type therapy that has so many different applications. And as you mentioned, I mean, it is the go-to first aid kit
It
for
is.
virtually everything. In
Yep.
fact, when I travel, I take my Avazier with me everywhere I go.
Yep.
And I have a little briefcase with its accessories because that has so many applications.
Yep.
But
Yep.
start thinking, for those of us tuning in today, start thinking of your body, not necessarily so much from a biochemical standpoint, which is so much of the focus of traditional allopathic medicine, so much so that that's all they do, all they have to offer other than surgery. Think of your body in terms of biomagnetism. Our bodies are electromagnetic in nature. It's how our cells communicate, as you mentioned, through what are called the fascia in our body. It's how our nervous system works, and it's all measurable. We are electromagnetic beings, and there's so much more power to healing and recovery when we can apply electromagnetic therapies or energies to our body in terms of healing. So during this process of my skateboarding injury and recovery, I didn't take a single over-the-counter or prescription pain med or anti-inflammatory. Even the topicals I used were not. I could have easily turned to Neosporin. Not that that's a prescription, but I used the natural stuff that, in my
Yeah.
opinion, works
Silver.
so much better
Yep.
than what most people would run to at CVS, Walgreens, or their medicine cabinet. Didn't touch any of that stuff. And again, this is stuff that I know we've been using for
Not
years, and
even
I think
hydrogen
the world needs to know
peroxide?
more about it.
Did you use hydrogen peroxide to clean your wound?
I did that initially just to
Yeah,
clean
okay.
up,
Because
but I
that's
use a
a great
topical
healer.
colloidal silver gel that has some other healing
Hmm.
nutrients in it
Hmm.
every day. Applied it about 3 times a day. I try to keep it lightly dressed. I don't like to I like to make sure that wound has an opportunity to get oxygen from the air. And yeah, and it's amazing in the process. And again, this is the wonderful thing, especially with Avasia, is now you helping to stimulate the healing processes through that bioenergy.
Hmm.
But what you're also doing is you're reducing or mitigating the potential for any residual scars, which become problematic down the road. They
Yeah.
don't look good, they're unsightly, especially when they're in visible locations. So the cool thing about using these things is not only you're addressing and healing, ramping up that healing process that your body would naturally do anyway. But
Yeah.
again, as we age, it might be a slower process. We have more likelihood to have chronic problems down the road, but you're also, again, eliminating the potential for any of that scar tissue. And I mean, I'd still have little pink areas, but other than that, I have no scarring left behind. And like I said, talk about, and I've had road rash before. I used to race competitively, bicycle racing in college. I've done some racing over the years, triathlons and stuff. And I've had some falls on my bike, and I know what road rash is like. It is not pleasant. This was the worst I've ever had.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to know that I had these tools, and it's just quite fascinating. So
Well, I'm
again,
glad.
we're
I'm
talking
glad you're
about
well.
recovery,
Yeah.
healing from injury, but again, also using a lot of these things on a daily basis for peak performance. And that's, again, this is the exciting part of all these things in this field, is go well beyond just recovery and injury. So
Yeah.
we've talked about neurofeedback, PE enough. Let's talk about vagal nerve stimulation, since we're talking about
Avasia.
electrical
Yeah.
modalities. Okay.
Yep.
So again, big concept, big picture, vagus nerve. Okay, not like Las Vegas, but VAGUS. In fact, I recommend anyone listening write it down. We have two of them that connect our brain. They run through our neck. And basically, this nerve is part of our 12 cranial nerves, as they're called. It's cranial nerve number 10. We call the vagus nerve, VAGUS. And this nerve essentially connects our brain to virtually every organ and gland throughout our thoracic and abdominal region. So just think about that, the wiring of this one nerve from our brain to all those internal parts of our body and the importance of those parts, like our heart, our GI system, our liver, our kidneys. So what's been discovered over the last several decades is by stimulating this vagal nerve, this vagus nerve, and there's several ways you can do it. There's massage techniques. If you're a massage therapist and you're trained in doing it, there's a way you can kind of hold your breath and do it. But one of the most effective ways is using microcurrent therapy, and Avasio is one way of doing it. In fact, it's one of the protocols I teach when I teach Avasio biofeedback microcurrent therapy. But there's a plethora, again, like the PEMF devices, there's devices out there that you simply put around your neck, links up to an app. It'll automatically turn to the appropriate program, whether you're trying to manage pain, trying to reduce inflammation, trying to improve your mood. And that's the cool thing about vagal nerve stimulation. It's a simple application, takes just minutes a day, and it can address so much of what ails so many people on a daily basis. It's beneficial for mood regulation, to help calm anxiety, help improve sleep, reduce inflammation, and help stimulate healing processes. Also very effective for gastrointestinal problems. All from one nerve that we can easily stimulate externally. And just to take this a step further, I think it was 2015, look it up, Scientific American, I believe it was the July issue, had a whole article about vagal nerve stimulation and how they were finding back in that day, and that was 10 years ago, its application for so many chronic intractable pain conditions like fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, things that traditional medicine just isn't helping these people who cannot recover, who are still suffering on a daily basis. They found by stimulating the vagus nerve, they could reduce their inflammation, reduce their pain medication usage. In fact, a lot of times come off the pain medication because we're getting to the root source and we're approaching the body from a bioelectrical standpoint and rather a biochemical standpoint. So what they did is they developed an implant vagal nerve stimulator. So this was a trial that was being done, and I think it's fully FDA cleared now for those that do qualify, but they have to go in and make an incision. They basically implant a stimulator around your vagus nerve. And like a lot of electrical implants, you have a remote that can control this thing. But the wonderful thing is for the rest of us, we don't have to go and have a surgery to put one in. We have ways to apply vagal nerve stimulation externally without being invasive and reap the benefits of what they discovered back then. So again, this is real science. And again, this is not just me spouting this stuff. You can look up, there's a plethora of research on a lot of the therapies that we've already discussed. We talk about Avasio a lot, and Avasio is one of its many applications is to do vagal nerve stimulation. And those of us who might be listening, or anyone listening in, if you do have the Avasio device, be sure that you are doing vagal nerve stimulation every day as part of your wellness routine. Yeah. And if you don't know how to do it, reach out to me, and we can set up a consult. It's very easy to learn with your device.
Yeah, and again, you can go to my website and you can click on to First Alternative Therapies right there, and that way it has all the information that you need. I can put PMF information and the Avasio information in the link below. That way that you are making a choice to heal your life. I tell you what, it's my lifesaver. It's my story of keeping me from surgery after a car accident, 4 herniated discs, spinal compression, and concussion, and a torn left tendon. And so Avasio was the only thing I used. They tried to give me oxycodone. I said no. They wanted to do surgery. I said, unless you can take the pain away, I'm not going to do surgery. They couldn't guarantee it. So I just healed naturally. And I believe that was part of my journey to get me to where I'm at today. So I'm challenging all of you who are watching today and listening another day, watching or listening today or another day, that to be curious about this, because I would have made fun of this information. I would have said, I'd rather take my Tylenol or take my medicine or whatever. But when you know better, you do better. And so I want to encourage you that if you're interested, maybe we can, like Dr. Silva said, create an event where we could show these tools for Avasia and PEMF machine and all the other stuff that we're talking about neurofeedback. We can do a neurofeedback or a 3.0 with Dr.
Yeah.
John Silva, and maybe create a date for the future. But for now, I want you to go to whenyounneedafriend.com. And while you're there, please subscribe to the website. I thank you for all of you who have subscribed to the website. It's so important that we have you on our list. That way you know who's in the classroom, what are their links. If you're not a subscriber, please do it today so that you have all of this information. You can just click on it and it'll take you to Dr. Silva's website. He could be anywhere, but he's here with you today so that you can learn these new truths that have saved my life, and I know his as well, and many others, not just the two of us, many others that since 2012, I've worked with First Alternative Therapies. Dr. John Silva, coincidentally enough, was the teacher in the class where I bought my unit in 2017. And after 5 years of working with First Alternatives. And so I just absolutely love the product. So I want to encourage you to go check it out. The links are below. The next thing I want to encourage you is to check out not only my website and like and follow me, subscribe to my website. Sorry about that. I also would like for you to subscribe and follow and like my social media. So another way to stay informed on a daily basis. It's a lot easier in many ways. But if that's gone, then you will not have that information. Then you can check out my sponsors. Support my sponsors the way that they're supporting the classroom, and let them know that you appreciate all the information that you are learning in the classroom, just like I am enjoying all this information that I'm learning. There are so many different ways that we can learn and grow together. Another one is that on November 1st that we're going to come together with the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit for Cancer and Autoimmune Disease. So mark your calendar, November 1st. It's an all-day Saturday event. It is so full of love and laughter and camaraderie, and you learn new tools. You'll have new tools. Hopefully, Dr. Silva will be there with neurofeedback training. I haven't pinned him yet, but maybe someday I will. But this is going to be an incredible event, especially for those of you who are facing some form of chronic diagnosis or disease. Let's get that. Let's rebuild your mitochondria so that you can say, I am healed, I am well. Last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom. Oh, did I mention my Shop Now bag? Check out my Shop Now bag. And that's where you find, in the Shop Now bag is where you find the First Alternative information there in my Shop Now bag. But go to my Shop Now bag. These are all Lilly approved products. Just know that all of those, if I don't approve it, it is not on there. Whether it's an affiliate or not affiliate, I want you to know that it is a product that I use on a regular basis. Last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, a one-time donation. Remember, you get this class for free, but it costs us a lot to broadcast it, publish it, and do everything that we do. So if you can, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, whatever you can give, your time, your talent, your treasure, all of it is very much appreciated. Just like we appreciate Dr. John Silva. You can find him at drjohnsilva.com. His number is 772-494-2576. I know that if you are a part of the webinars that we're doing, there are like little goodies that you can get. You can reach out to me for that. If you want to learn anything about what Dr. Silva is talking about today, let's talk about it and let him know that you learned from it from the Lillian McDermott radio show classroom. So Dr. Silva, I want to thank you for everything that you do to support the classroom, to support, I call it a ministry. This is my ministry. And so let's move on. Let's continue on with the next thing that you want to talk about.
Sure. So let's talk about photobiomodulation therapy. Big word. A lot of people refer to it as laser therapy or LED light therapy. Again, been around for decades. In fact, this was the first energy-based therapy I brought into my practice even before I even opened my practice. I just graduated school, and I wanted to start personally using it for myself, and made the investment because I realized the potential it had for my clients at that time in terms of recovering from neurological conditions and musculoskeletal problems. So it's the application of, again, non-invasive, low intensity laser or LED lights. And again, the non-invasive part. This is not an industrial laser. We're not cutting you. We're not using it surgically, which laser is used for surgical application. This is a low intensity light therapy, basically, to help, again, help our bodies to recover, to enhance our mitochondria, to enhance overall cell function using the application of light energy. It's just another form of energy. We talked about electromagnetic energy through PEMF. We keep mentioning the Avazio device, which is a microcurrent therapy using subtle amounts of signals of frequencies pulsed through what's called microcurrent. Now we're talking about the application of light. We are light beings. And again, it's that rabbit hole of research, again, has been going on for well over 50 years. There's thousands and thousands of published studies worldwide indicating in the application of light therapy through laser or LED. But what the fascinating thing is, over the last several years, I have been following the trend, and I've also been applying this in my personal practice. The application of photobiomodulation is the concept that I like to use because it encompasses both laser and LED, but specifically for the brain. In fact, I showed you an apparatus. Was that ending our last podcast?
Yes.
I can't remember if it was just a conversation
I asked
you and
to
I
get
were
it,
having.
and you put it on,
Zoom.
and it looked like you were an
Yeah.
alien. Yes.
Yeah. So it's basically an apparatus for your head that has LED diodes, and they're positioned in specific locations to target certain parts of our brain. And this one even incorporates a little LED diode that you clip on the edge of your nostril to pulse LED light therapy up into what we call the prefrontal cortex, which, again, a lot of our cognitive functions, also our emotional well-being centers of neurological function in our brain. And again, it's not something you feel. This laser or this LED doesn't produce any heat. It doesn't burn you. It doesn't fry your neurons. It's all in the aims of helping to reduce what we call systemic inflammation, to help increase mitochondrial function, to address inflammation, and essentially just help your body and your brain to heal. So applications for this, as it relates to these brain-based devices, are recovery from stroke, recovery from head injury, concussion, or traumatic brain injury, anxiety, depression, cognitive decline. There's a lot of published research now on the use and application of brain-based photobiomodulation for cognitive decline and dementias. So, and the neat thing about this is, again, up until several years ago, this was only accessible through clinics. If you wanted to make an investment for a home-based device, we're talking thousands of dollars. Now there are technologies that have been developed that are reasonable cost, can be used in the household. They're simple enough to use, and they're much simpler to use. They're not as awkward like the one I showed you, had multiple wires, and I still use it. It's still a very applicable therapy, but it's about 10 years old. Now just imagine you've got a bicycle helmet. You turn a simple dial on the back. All the LEDs are all built in. It links up wirelessly to an app on your phone. You control what program you want to use, that photobiomodulation energy, whether it's to improve your cognitive function, you want to address inflammation in your brain because of a recent injury, whatever it might be. And you sit there, again, while you're reading a book, while you're watching television with a helmet on, that's pulsing this non-invasive light therapy into your brain. And again, research this stuff. This is not future stuff. This has been in existence for a long time. And I keep bringing things back to the brain because that's the core of what I do these days. But again, this stuff can be applied throughout the entire body as well. And my personal devices, I have many different LED and light therapy devices that I've used for localized treatments, but also for the whole body. So we touched on several different things. So in summary, neurofeedback, PEMF, biofeedback microcurrent, and photobiomodulation. And there's several more within my wheelhouse or my toolbox, so to speak. And maybe we can have this discussion again on a future podcast.
Part two. We got to do the part two,
Yeah.
the stuff that we haven't done yet, because I want you to bring that alien thing that you had. I think the last time we even recorded where you had that, we took a picture together that you had that. I love it. And so these are the things that, if you don't know these new truths, research them. And you have the links that we're providing below. I will have Dr. Silva give me some of the links of some of the products that he recommends outside of what's in my website, and we'll go from there, because it is so important that we do everything together. Or that we learn as much so that we can live the life of our dreams, so that we can be healthy and super bionic boomers. And so
Yes.
a final word before we go.
Just have an open mind, explore, be a child again. And as it relates to these wonderful therapies, these technologies, and just know, I've seen the trends. Our future looks bright for all of us. And no pun intended, we just left off on discussing light therapy. But truly, we have access to so much now. It's only going to get better, more cost effective. And I see a future where every household is going to have some application of several of these things.
Yeah,
and we can get into this another topic, but what's really fascinating, and this is my latest rabbit hole, is looking at quantum technologies like scalar energy, which was postulated way back in the late 1800s. Nikola Tesla took and ran with it. And that is fascinating, because I really see that as the future of all of these energy therapies.
Well, to be continued, so they say on the radio. And we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Silva again and again and again. But if you have any questions, please remember that he will be right here. We'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. Also, the links will be below, so make sure you click on them. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. John Silva wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.